So I was doing Wraith Tide. I'm pretty sure I tried to run it 5 times. Out of those 5 times, there was one completion. And we timed it. We timed the one completion, but everything else fell apart before we got there. How do we fix this? Solo queue and quick play, they don't feel good. You have to get Marks of Fellowship to buy these boxes that let you gear faster. The only guaranteed way to get these Marks of Fellowship is to go do quick play. Quick play is an exercise in how fast can we get this over with. It can be not completely awful if you have like a tank and a healer queuing together, because you can kind of make it a game of, can we pull everything onto the last boss? What's the most efficient route for us to do this in? However, no one is learning about how the game actually works in quick play.
Not only are they not learning about how the game works, but they're learning incorrectly how the game works.
They're
and how
learning
their
bad
classes
habits.
work.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, nothing stays alive for long enough to like actually think about your rotation. It's no good. And I would argue that because it's the only way that's guaranteed to get Marks of Fellowship to make your Eternal character as strong as possible as you're starting to get into the end game, it is robbing potential players who could be in these leagues, teaching people how the game works and bringing a level of skill that might not show up very often in these queues anymore. It's keeping the players either right here or in here, and it doesn't feel good. I think quick play is cannibalizing the potential for these queues to feel considerably better.
I strongly agree that there's a point where the tanks and healers could be coming down and teaching people mechanics that they've already mastered and surpassed, teaching people the new mechanics that come in from the adept dungeons, etc. But instead, they're just going into quick play, pulling the entire dungeon and leaving as fast as possible. Nobody's learning anything. And I think it does create a problem where, especially in contender, trying to get through Cithral's Fall with a bunch of people and nobody knows what they're doing feels like day one of open beta and trying to figure out what your buttons do. Like it's not a good feeling.
How do we fix this? Get rid of quick play. I don't know what the intention of this game mode is. I did watch the developer stream where Hamish was like, I don't know if, quick plays turned into a little bit of pull everything and everything. Maybe we need to make it harder. Don't make it harder. Don't
It's a terrible idea.
Get rid of this tab. Get rid of this tab. If you want to bring quick play energy into things, get rid of the timers on Contender and Adept, where people can learn the actual mechanics that are going on, where people can start to learn how things work. And what I would love to see is, if there are roles that are in demand in these queues, like healers and tanks. For instance, we have an underpopulated queue of healers and tanks right now for Paragon, Champion, Adept, and we're missing tanks for Contender. So here is my suggestion. If you have completed the Paragon League, there is now a queue that is available to you. And that queue is a queue that guarantees you, let's say, 4 Marks of Fellowship, maybe 5. That could be balanced and tuned. But it guarantees you Marks of Fellowship and a high chance to get Eternal Essence bonus gear, possibly that's transferable between characters and heroes that you have, if you are willing to go in and fill the roles that are necessary to fill. That is how I would suggest initially that this be done. I've seen people suggesting we need a social credit system. We need penalties for people who leave, and they get stuck in their own queue full of leavers until they learn to be good citizens. While I think that there may be a place for that, I think there's 2 things that have to be in place before you can consider putting that in. So you need the ability to autofill if somebody drops or has a connection error, etc. And then you also need the ability to reconnect to a dungeon if you end up getting disconnected for some reason. Those two things currently do not exist in the game, as far as I can tell. Maybe there's been progress made on those, but I don't think so. Once you have those, you can start talking about punishing leavers. But I think that in general, incentivizing people to go do the activity that's needed, paying people well to shovel the poop out of the poop pen, I think that is a better solution than trying to punish people because they didn't stick it out and suffer through the journey with people who might not be capable of completing the journey.
100%. Reward people for staying, don't punish people for leaving. And to your point about giving like a socket reward, socket of gear that would be transferable, they could just add another resource, which is to add a socket. It may not even
Ooh.
have an essence bonus, but if they would do a resource that only drops if you are, like you said, you've cleared Ransack, you've beaten all through Paragon, and you're in Eternal now, and you queue into Contender, you get a piece. Maybe it's you do 5 runs and you get the ability to add a socket to a piece of gear. If you do 10 runs in Adept, maybe you get the ability to add a essence bonus socket to a piece of gear.
Mm.
Incentivize higher geared players to go and help lower geared players out. And of course, we talked a little bit before, I still think they need some sort of reward for doing completion runs. If you've done 10 runs without leaving, then you get a bag of gems or a bag of materials, something to incentivize people to stay rather than punishing people for leaving. I don't agree with punishing people because the problem is everybody is trying to do their own thing. I may queue up and I'm like, I really need a Sailor's Abyss, and everybody else is going straight for the capstone, or everybody else is like, nope, it's Empyrean Sands. It's like
Yeah.
I don't want to stay and run 15 Empyrean Sands, or yeah, it's 15 Empyrean Sands if all I need is Sailor's Abyss. So I'm probably leaving if everybody's already clicked on that.
Yeah. Indeed. Indeed. Completely agree. Please, Chief Rebel, do not punish people for leaving. And definitely don't punish people for leaving until you have and the ability to reconnect people to their games if their client crashes or they have a network hiccup. And please put in autofill for people to be able to do it. I know these are things that I'm sure that they are working on. I've seen them mention at least autofill, but I think that they probably please don't put in anything to punish people until you've got those things in for sure. And try incentives first. Try the carrot first.
Punishing people is a good way to drop your number of players, and I don't think that they want to be doing that right now.
Yeah, exactly. Until you've got too many players, don't think about punishing your players any more than the systems already do punish your players.